Hello and welcome to Following on County Cricketer. I'm Jon Norman, alongside Steve Harmison and Nick Friend and George Dobell from thecricketer.com. This is the second time we're going to attempt this intro. Boy, was the first attempt award-winning, but unfortunately somebody, i.e. me, hadn't pressed the record button. So we go again. It just means we're going to talk about Somerset again. George, 4 games ago, we were talking about them potentially winning the title. Now we're talking about them possibly being relegated. How has it come to this?
It's been a really disappointing start to the season. There are a few things. I think missing Craig Overton is huge. They've obviously been without him for 2 games. It's not just that he's a really good all-round cricketer and bowler in particular, but I think he adds some fight. I think he's got a bit of dog in him. And they looked as if they needed that. Obviously, there are other players they're missing, like Matt Henry's a massive disappointment that he's not there. But they collapsed alarmingly softly against Surrey in the second innings. And it's early in the season. I think they've still got quite a lot of quality, but it does appear that it will be events at the bottom end of the table that will be their focus this season, and that's really, really disappointing because I think they're a bit better than that. I do think it will be Worcester and one other. I say that with some sorrow. And I think they're the only side not to have beaten Worcester so far. And I think that will hurt them as well. I think I did say that at the time. But there is quite a lot of quality there, and I think they can do quite a lot to improve. It's not like it's a hopeless situation by any account. It's just been a bit disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. Essex next. Did I see that there's been a bit of criticism about Craig Overton? You were defending him on social media this week.
Ludicrous.
Criticism
I mean, listen, it's
from
all
close
about
to home as well, right?
All about opinions. Who's to say that any opinion is more valid than any other? But if you don't think that Craig Overton is trying, and that's ludicrous. I mean, he's a very talented player, but he's obviously not the most talented all-rounder Somerset have ever had. But honestly, in all the years I've been watching Somerset, and Somerset was pretty much used as daycare for me growing up, I've never seen a cricketer try as much and try as hard and care as much as Craig Overton does. He wouldn't know how not to. And he's injured because he's bowled through so many injuries over the years, and it's beginning to take a toll. And to blame him is absurd.
Nick, your thoughts? I mean, how are Somerset going to improve if they're going to turn things round? I mean, more 300s from Tom Banton rather than the subsequent run of quite low scores, I'd imagine, would help.
I suppose if they had more players making triple hundreds, they'd be better placed. I think there is one sort of instructive part that came from that Worcestershire draw, which was that that pitch was very flat, and it got flatter as the game wore on, and it was a massive missed opportunity. But it was all, but actually less because the position they had a lead of like 520 runs on first innings. But it was, to be honest, the missed opportunity was that they rolled Worcestershire for 150 and couldn't win, and that was in the first innings, and that shows how flat the pitch you got, and you've got to, you'd have to win games. You've talked about the sides that have sort of pulled clear of where maybe some people thought they might be at this point in the season. Sussex, for example, did a job on Somerset at home the week after that draw, and so actually it's so much of it sort of sliding doors moments, isn't it? If Somerset win that game against Worcester, they effectively dominated for all 4 days. They're 1-0. They go to Sussex, who are newly promoted, and who knows? They win that game. They're 2-0, and suddenly we're sat here saying they're going to win the title in the 150th season. But as it was, they didn't get that. They didn't get that final week against Worcestershire. Went to Sussex, got smashed really, and then suddenly, a lot can happen very quickly, can't it? We're talking about Notts being top of the league. Leicester being top of the league, Derbyshire being second. If you rewound back to the end of last season, you're looking at 3 counties who were pretty sort of, was 2 counties at least, certainly in Derbyshire and Notts, who were not best pleased with their head coaches, who, where there wasn't a lot of positivity knocking around, and not stood up on the last day of last season, but they've started this season with an attack that wins you games, and they're top, and we're having the chat that we thought we might be having about them, about Somerset instead, if that makes sense. So, as George says, I think we said at the time they might well look back on that draw. I think back then we thought we'd mean that in terms of the points that might keep them short in a title race. But now 4 games in, we're looking at that going, those 8 points they could really have done with because they find themselves second bottom and with 3 games left of this first block as well. You don't want to be winless through 7.
Yeah,
Just one thing they could do, arguably, they have got several good spinners, yeah, who aren't all in the team. They could go back to the sort of pitches they were playing on. They maybe wouldn't have to be as extreme as the period when they were getting themselves in trouble, but they could go back to turning wickets. I mean, they might not want to do it this weekend when they've got Essex coming, but they basically could do that.
Well,
And
of course, they've also played. They've had 3 away games since that Worcestershire game. They've not been back to Taunton since. I'd be amazed if they played on a pitch like the one they played against Worcestershire since then. You know, Lewis Gregory, I think, called it bang average after that game. They've drawn away at Hampshire. That's the other game that we've not mentioned. That was rain affected, but um, but you need to win your home games, and the problem that Somerset will have if the pitches are like they were against Worcester, is it will not be easy to win games, and that's a problem whether you're trying to stay up or whether you're trying to win the title. So yeah, as George says, I mean, you've obviously been here before with Somerset and spinning pitches, but between Vaughan's success last year was mid-late season on spinning pitches. Jack Leach has always been his best when the ball's spinning because he bowls with so much side spin. Then obviously they've got Bashir knocking around as well, just back
and
to
Goldsworthy.
Morgan and Goldsworth. There's a lot they can do, but equally, and I think the other thing I'd say on the Matt Henry one's interesting because he's not. It's a tricky one. Like I get it. It's unlucky and he's not there and they're frustrated and all that, but that happens. Like that's not unique. Everyone misses out on overseas players and loses overseas players, and they go home early. They don't arrive. Fergus O'Neill has gone, gone already, but been replaced by Mohamed Bassett at Notts. Like it happens, and you could be very lucky to go through a season with all your overseas recruitment going as you want it to, frankly. And I wonder whether they've missed a trick slightly by not replacing him immediately. But I also I don't quite feel as sympathetic to the missing overseas player thing because everyone goes through that and it is just part of the county game now. It's not, I'd be more surprised if Matt Henry was arriving and playing 7 games in a row from April onwards, given the way that the game now works. So I do think you have to manage that situation slightly better than to say we're missing Matt Henry. Pretorius has come in and done all right as the other overseas, but I do wonder, whether if they had their time again from 4 weeks ago, where they might have gone, is there someone we can get in, like a Brett Hampton, who Hampshire got in at late notice to replace Jack Edwards. Hampton's not pulled up trees, but he's another sort of experienced, high quality body, and that is a lot of what the championship's about, isn't it?
Harmy, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think Craig obviously is massive. I didn't see that about Craig getting criticised, and that's worrying. That if that's come from within the membership, because he's been your shining light for so long at Somerset, and you look at the way Somerset's leadership is. They've got a lot of good young players in there, but Craig's been so vital to them over the course of the year. So, from a former player, that's disappointing to hear that he has been criticised. The spinning pitches. I mean, Durham's just beat Worcester, and Durham. I mean, great from them a recruitment point of view. Brought in Jake Ball, brought in Youssef last minute when Doggett got injured. So a bit like what you're saying, Nick, about Matt Henry and not replacing him. Durham have been able to do that, and it's worked for them. But you look at the pitch at Worcester. Yes, it's been underwater for the best part of 6 months, but you play on a green seamer. What's the difference between playing on green seamers and then spinning friendly surfaces? I think that's all nonsense. And if Somerset want to get out of the mire they're in, go back to what their strength is. And like George and Nick have both said, I think next time I turn up at Taunton, I'm expected to turn and play what is our strength, which is, like Nick said before, Archie Vaughan back end of last summer when it's spinning, and Jack Leach to name 2. Possibly about Bashir, whether they bring him back, who knows. But Somerset, I think Worcester always worried me that they were never going to sort of challenge in this division. I expected Somerset to challenge a bit better. Not sort of top of the league, who I expected to have a lot of injuries, but they've managed their bowlers very, very well so far. And Josh Tong, I know we'll probably come on to him and talk about England, but I thought Josh Tong this week, first up, was very, very, very impressive. And I'm sure I didn't have him in the sort of England group going into that first Zimbabwe test, but I think this week he's just bowled himself possibly into the team, never mind into contention.
Okay, we're going to talk
Just,
about
just,
Josh
just very
Tongue.
quickly, John. Just
Go on.
Somerset supporters generally will be shouting at their speakers or whatever. It's a tiny minority who are having to go at Craig Overton. I think most of them are far more sensible than that, and also have seen enough to know that he gives it his all.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about Josh Tongue. We're going to talk about Surrey flexing their muscles. We're going to talk about Leicestershire. We're going to talk about plenty more. You're listening or watching, following on County Cricket. This is following on County Cricketer Josh Tongue. Then last week, Nick Friend was suggesting that Josh would play a hearty part of England's Test summer. Harmy less convinced, but have you changed your mind, Harmy? Sounds like you have just before the break.
Yeah, I think I have. Yeah, I think by what I've seen last week, because I think last week I don't know. George and Nick might know the stats better than I will from watching our speeds and everything like that. But he looked a little bit more aggressive than he did when he got 5 for the other week. He looked a little bit quicker than he did. I thought his setup player was with the wickets. By the aggression into length and his ability to not only bowl a short length, but continue that with a fuller length that was in the business area and challenging the outside edge. I thought he went up a week, and when you see bowlers go like that, then all of a sudden you're going right. He's just getting primed and ready for the Test match in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, I think from the first 5 he got, I think there's been another level again gone up, and I think that suggests to me that he might be more in contention for the Test series, Test match with Zimbabwe anyway coming up.
Can we talk about Surrey, because I was there at the Oval, and while no one was exactly getting too uncomfortable, Somerset did go in at lunch on day one after losing the toss and being asked to bat without losing a wicket. There were few in the ground that would have foreseen an 8-wicket win on day 3, going the way of Surrey anyway. Jordan Clark's first 3 overs went for 22, and then he came back. I think he bowled something like 24 overs for 60 odd and took a 5-fer. And Sibley's done it again. His form is continuing. And Ben Folkes could catch Lord Lucan. Wasn't that your tweet, George?
It was. Look, he's incredible. It seems to annoy people that are nice about Ben Folkes. But at the risk of name dropping, I saw Jack Russell last night and was talking to him about it, and he agrees. He was looking at the one, who was it? He caught Pretorius. So it's going down the leg side, outside edge. Folkes changes direction very late and catches diving. And apparently even Folkes was impressed. He's a special cricketer. I think he's one of the true greats playing Championship cricket at the moment. An all-time great. I think he's that good. And I think the England policy on him is mistaken. In that I think he ensures you only need to create 10 chances instead of maybe 14. And I actually think he possibly creates more chances because of all the things he can do, such as standing up to the stumps when necessary to the seamers. So he played a huge part in that. Surrey's catching generally was one of the differences between the teams, but obviously they're a very good side with lots of good players, but I thought he stuck out. Sibley was real old school, I think that first innings 50, what did he get, 53 and 55 overs or something? And it was just what was required.
Ironic cheers when he reached 50, wasn't there?
Yeah, but he in a low-scoring game, he actually built the foundations. I mean, Burns at the other end was going a bit quicker and scored more, so credit where it's due there as well. But there is still a role for that, and they did win in 2.5 days. So it was probably worth that time carving out a decent score. Surrey looked really good. The only thing I'd say about them is they are going to lose some players, aren't they? They are going to lose Atkinson for the entire summer, really. Once it starts, anyway. They're going to lose Pope at least briefly, and they're going to lose Jamie Smith, who also added good runs, batted, gave the innings impetus, just looked a classy player. So they're a really good side, but they do have a couple of challenges to come, and Notts will probably only lose Tongue. Although that's a big deal, of course. And they've got a bit of catching up to do, 1 win in 4. But it felt like it was coming back together. It felt they were gelling. They looked really, really strong.
Good stuff. Yeah, they have got a few players coming back or coming into the side, but Dom Sibley, fourth in the list of run scorers this year, averaging just under 70. Rory Burns, not Rory Burns, Ben Folkes is averaging over 50. I mean, I think he had a poor game against Hampshire, but apart from that, has performed really well. And Jordan
Neither of
Clark
them would get picked by England.
well, exactly. So they're going to stick around, and Nathan Smith will be joining. Tom Laws should be back, as well as Cameron Steele. But yeah. So Surrey winning their game. Where else? Leicestershire. Should we talk about Leicestershire? They're having a terrific start. I know we're jumping from Division 1 to Division 2, but I think it warrants it. Yeah. Again, what's your thoughts on that, Nick?
They're just really fun. They're fun. They're well put together. They're well organised. They've recruited really shrewdly, and they're top Division 2, unbeaten, 2 wins, 2 draws. And I think it's 10 years this week that they ended that 2.5-year run without a win. And so there's a little bit of sort of symmetry to, I suppose, in a way. I was at Bristol on Friday to watch them and speaking to Claude Henderson, their director of cricket, and they had a top 3 of Sol Budinger, Rishi Patel, and Rayan Ahmed. And obviously, Rayan Ahmed had opened the previous week when Patel was injured. I just thought it was really interesting because most counties, A, wouldn't have thrown Rayan up to the top of the order to open the batting, and B, once their first choice open and Rishi Patel had come back, I don't think many counties would have said to Rayan, well, why don't you just bat 3 now? Most, I think, would have pushed him back to 6 or 7, where he's done most of his work. But they've just got these sort of 3 dashes, but Budinger particularly just belts it. I think he strikes at 80 or something in first class cricket, which is mad. And I mean, to be fair, they actually didn't work for them at all at Bristol. I think their top 3 were 30 for 6 in the game or something. But they're very well put together, and they've basically got 11 all-rounders. They don't carry many specialist bowlers around with them. They had last week they had Tom Scriven batting at 11, who averages 28 in first class cricket. I mean, there can't have been many sides ever who've had a smaller differentiation between the highest average and the lowest average, I'd guess. And so they're quite hard to beat. And they also have, I watched Josh Hulball on Friday in his first Champa game this season after a side injury.
He got good. Cameron Green out, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't think it was quite as dramatic as people.
No, I was going to say it.
It was an 82-mile-an-hour full ball that Cameron Green played all around. It wasn't the in-swing 90-mile-an-hour Yorker that people want to see Mitchell start bowling. It wasn't quite.
It swung in.
But it was. But I thought it was hilarious that it was built up as though he's this great setup of Cameron Green. He's bowled 2 balls down leg side and thought, right, I need a ledge clipping just in case he gets a fine edge.
Yeah,
and then he bowled up. I wouldn't say a straight one, but he bowled one that swung in.
And Green was caught in a slightly weird spot, and but for what it's worth, I thought that as happens with social media, I thought that clipping up that whole spell was slightly reductive because, to be honest, he bowled much better than that. And speaking to James Bracey then the first day, who made 93 in that game, and sort of ended Hull's figures actually don't look that good because he ended the innings bowling bumpers at Bracey to a short leg side boundary and a lot of sort of couple of top edge sixes, couple of fours. Speaking to Bracey about him, he said he thought he bowled really, really well in his first spell when he ran in and basically swung it and bowled the occasional bouncer. And it's tough for Josh Hull. He's a kid, and it obviously happened so quickly from last year that he's in that weird spot now where he's on an ECB5 bowling contract, so they'll try and wrap him up. But he kind of needs to learn how to bowl, and it's that sort of halfway house that they want to manage with all their young bowlers, whether that's Baker or Turner or him or Tong. But Leicestershire have done really well. Alfonso Thomas has done a brilliant job there with James Taylor, and they're top and they're clear as well. They're really impressive. They've got Shah Massoud arriving next month. There's no reason why they can't stay the course and be top 3, top 4, properly challenging going into September. I think they look really tough to beat. They say they've got 11 batters. They use the loan system really well, and not just, by which I mean they don't just sign players for a game to fill a hole. They signed Ben Green for the whole of the Championship block. They had Scott Curry for the whole of last season. They had Ian Holland for the whole of last season and signed him permanently. Yeah, I think they're really shrewd in what they're doing, and there's been a lot of sort of like gimmicky stuff there in the last couple of years, and trying to move their reputation away from being this team that loses a lot. And actually, I think this feels quite adult and sort of beyond some of those innovations that they've gone through, and they just look like a really good team at the moment.
Good stuff. We're going to talk about Durham very shortly. They got their first win of the campaign, I think. Did they get their first win? It was their first win, wasn't it, against Worcestershire? We'll get Harmy's thoughts on that very shortly. You're listening to Following On County Cricketer. This is Falling on County Cricketer. Yeah, relief, I imagine, Harmy. Durham got the win, but bowled out cheaply in first innings, and actually it looked like they might be struggling up until Worcestershire themselves were dismantled on a pitch that yielded, well, it led to a few eyebrows, didn't it? A very short game, a lot of wickets, but not many runs.
Yeah, not many runs. What was it? 162, the highest score. 42 from Henry Nichols, the highest score in the match. I mean, when I was watching it, on the stream, it might have been an optical illusion from where the camera was, but that wicketkeeper and slips were awfully close for everybody that bowled in that game. Which obviously the pitch has been underwater for the last sort of 6 months. I don't think you can really have a go at Worcester for anything to do with the surface. It's just the way, unfortunately, it is. Durham, hats off Marcus North, Ryan Campbell for their recruitment. They've realised that got a lot of bowlers injured at this moment in time. Potts was rested. Connors is out. Karst can't play. There's one or two other bowlers. Doggett's gone home. So to act very, very quickly, and Youssef came in, and he was perfect for a green seamer in England, and he bowled nicely. He ran up, bowled stump to stumps with a little bit of movement, and really sort of tested the techniques of the Worcester players. And even that, Durham were in real trouble. George Drizzle, batting at number 8, was Durham's highest scorer, and even in the second innings, Ollie Robinson, who's had a little bit of a struggle this season so far, 22 not out when Durham only chasing 108. He steadied the ship and got Durham over the line. So it was a good win. It's a win that I think's been coming, because I don't think Durham have been playing bad cricket. Like I've said in the last sort of 2 or 3 episodes of this, Durham play a brand of cricket which is on the front foot, which you expect to. It's a club that's produced Ben Stokes. Ryan Campbell wants Durham to play positively, and sometimes you can come unstuck. So they'll win more games than they'll lose, and they deserve to win this one. And it's got them off and running the championship, and it's got them up to 6th.
Did you mention Beddingham?
Yeah, I seen David Beddingham last week. He had a little bit of an unfortunate injury where he got an in-swinger onto his foot, and the ball hit one side and his bat hit the other side of his foot. So he's in a medical boot for the next 4 weeks, because he's broke I'm not sure what part of his foot he's broke, but he's broken his foot. He's out for 4 weeks. I don't think it's going to have any consequence towards the World Test Championship final. I think he'll be back for that. But the double whammy was he was out LBW as well. So he had to hobble off with a broken foot, which didn't help the ego of David Beddingham. But again, Durham, they missed him. They have missed him. But they've got a win on the board, and hopefully Beddingham, when he comes back, Durham will be in that sort of top half of the table as opposed to being in the bottom half.
Do you see on that subject, do you see Lewis Deploy's game for Middlesex this week?
Yes.
Deploy walked off in the second innings, limping on both feet, so he got hit on the toe in the first innings, which caused him to battle the runner for the rest of the match. And then it was his front foot, and I believe the same toe was hit on in pre-season. I think broke his toe in March, and got hit so hard on the toe in the first innings that he batted like Shandapal for the rest of the game, essentially with his front leg well out of the way, which then meant in the second innings that Blair Tickner speared a big Yorker through on his bat, and smashed him on his back foot, his left foot. So he hadn't, once again, as per Beddingham, given out LBW and walked off with his runner, but limping on both feet, having I think really hurt himself across the course of that game. His old club as well. He got really nice reception. He got a very gutsy, grim 50 with this runner. And did you see the runner as well? Did you see that incident? That was.
What about the run out?
The run out. Well, the run out was terrific.
Hilarious.
Poor old Nathan Fernandez. He'll have better games of cricket. He was out first ball of the innings, and Middlesex with 150 odd for one. so 150 off for two, at which point Deploy came out to bat. And because they'd only been one down, the man out, Fernandez, had to stick his pads back on and go in as a runner. So he was out first ball innings, and then ran out Eskenazi, the in set batter, with Duploy's first ball. So effectively, he faced one ball, he ran for one ball, he was caught a gully, and he ran Eskenazi out in the process. But yeah, tough sport, isn't it?
I think that brings us to a natural conclusion in terms of the matches from last week. I want to just end this section before we start talking about the start of the Women's Professional League, which I know me and Nick attended a game last week at Beckenham. I'm not sure if George did, but we'll find out shortly. A report in the IPL, a report by Matt Roller that the IPL is looking to increase the size of the league to 94 games. Every team will play home and away as of 2028, which would add another couple of weeks to the length of the IPL. Now, whether that means it's going to start earlier or finishing later, when you also factor in the feeling that the 100 may increase in size once the new owners come in, it just shows that the English summer is going to be squeezed at both ends, although it does make a fleeting appearance back towards the start of autumn, of course. George, your thoughts on that?
I don't think there's anything there that we didn't know. We know the direction of travel. The game is going. It's not a direction that I particularly relish, but I don't know that moaning about it at this stage is going to change a whole hell of a lot. Honestly, I just think those people who love county cricket and championship cricket should enjoy it while they can.
The same could be said for Test cricket as well, because we used to play Test matches in May, didn't we? Then that kind of came to an end because
we might still,
we are seeing one this year, in fairness, but
they might again. They might be have second string players in them, and we've already seen that. These things. This has been in process for a long time. Funnily enough, I went to Hugh's book launch yesterday. Can you see it?
I saw some photos. David Gower was there, I see.
Yeah. It's weird he used him in the photos and not me. Were you there, Nick? I don't think you were you?
I sadly couldn't be there.
Right. And
was
of course,
Jared there?
Was
Jared there?
Yes. And so he's written. It's called The Final Test, and it's about the uncertain future of cricket's first-class game. And I think we all know what's happening. And it's all very well. You can have ideas about, you could ban players or something. Some people will say that, and you will just lose them. So there aren't easy solutions to this. It is just the direction of travel, and I find it quite sad. But the good side of things is cricket is still a great game, whether it's played over 100 balls or 5 days. And one way or another, it will survive and flourish. The world changes, and not all change is as welcome. But there we are. It seems to be the direction of travel, doesn't it?
It does. It is not all doom and gloom, though. I was at Beckenham for the start of the one-day competition at Surrey and Somerset, women, 2 professional teams. I was watching this game, and in the background was the Crystal Palace Towers, and that's not far. Well, W.G. Grace played county cricket there towards the back end of his career. The thing his last 2 years in the county championship were playing for London County or something. They played on Crystal Palace, and I was looking at those towers. Not that they were when W.G. Grace was playing, but I was just thinking, W.G. Grace is playing county cricket here in this part of the world 125 years ago, and it's taken, not that is a line in the sand moment, but it's 125 years, and I'm watching the first ever professional women's game. It's in the same part of the world. It's unfathomably long time for this to actually come around. It was slightly underwhelming, wouldn't you say, Nick? I mean, the weather didn't help.
No, I thought the game was. To be honest, I thought the occasion was saved by the game. There was a very good game of cricket took place with a crazy ending. It was 31 needed off 10, wasn't it? And AJ Wellington hit her first 6 balls for 4. Underwhelming is probably the right word. It was. I mean, the game should not have been at Beckenham. I don't think there's an excuse really. The other 3 games to mark the opening were played at Trent Bridge, Edgbaston, and Chester Street, and the game should have been at the Oval because that's where Surrey play. And if you are going to launch your women's professional team, you should be playing at your home ground, not someone else's out ground, which you've had to kind of fairly, sort of dispiritingly cover up with bits of like conference livery. I expected, once it was at Beckenham, which we all knew for a very long time since the fixtures came out last November, I expected Surrey to have gone to town on Beckenham really and to made it look more like Surrey than Kent. But there was a lot of Kent knocking around. There was one sign that you could see that said "Welcome to the home of Kent Women's Cricket," and they stuck the Surrey badge in front of it. But it still looked like the home of Kent Women's Cricket, and it's a big old field. It's an outground. It's hard to turn that into what it was meant to be. And I know Surrey are playing the County Championship on Friday, but this was a Wednesday and a 50-over game, and a lot of the chat over the last year has been about how these teams not just coexist, but flourish together with equal opportunity. And I suppose the question to ask is whether Surrey men would have played the first game of a brand new 50-over competition at Beckenham or at Guildford. And I think we know the answer to that question. That being said, Surrey's done a lot of, I don't want to make that sound like a stack on Surrey. I think Surrey's overall women's programme since taking over from South East Stars has been exceptional, from the squad they've built to the stream that they've provided for that game and for all the forthcoming games, to the brand new redevelopments and the change rooms at the Oval and a lot of the stuff that's been done. I just thought that was a really poor show, and I reckon if they had their time again, they'd have done differently.
Just on that, yeah, this is what I gave you a downbeat answer just now. And this is what I mean about things change. So the men's game is changing quite a lot, but the flip side of that is the women's game is providing more opportunities and entertainment and progress, and that's what I mean. The world changes, and we just enjoy different aspects of things. And actually, as well, having been at Surrey this last game, county cricket feels great at Surrey. It feels vibrant. There are lots of people there. I don't know what the crowd was on the first day. 4,500 rings the bell. It feels like it still matters, and I'm at Taunton this weekend, and I think it'll be the same. So it's not all doom and gloom. And the long term, the prognosis is pretty terrible. But, I don't want to be one of those people who goes to a wedding and says, these things either end in death or divorce. If you look far enough, we're all doomed. So enjoy it while you can. There's quite a lot to enjoy, eh?
I do agree. I've been to how many? I think I've seen 14 of the 18 teams in the championship so far, and broadly, it helps because the weather's been nice, hasn't it? But I don't know if maybe we say this every year, but it has. I agree with George. It does really feel like it has mattered, and actually, particularly with Division 2, and even with Division 1, as we've seen so far this season, it's been really nice watching other teams win. And I say, particularly Division 2, Leicestershire and Derbyshire are top 2 at the end of April, and you'd got very, very long odds on that a month ago. And seeing teams come out of not the wilderness, but sort of, I guess, not accepting their fate, as it were, and just not accepting being rubbish at red ball cricket and throwing all their eggs in the white ball basket. I don't know. I've enjoyed watching. Competitive games. There's also a lot of results that you wouldn't have, I suppose, written down on paper, back in mid-March.
Well said, guys. Well said. Look, let's end on a cheery note. We're going to look ahead to the pick of the matches next week here on Following On County Cricketer. You're listening to Following On County Cricketer with myself, Jon Norman, Steve Harmison, George Dobell and Nick Friend, pushing towards the back end of the show. Let's look ahead to the pick of the games coming up. It's not a full left of games. Durham taking on Hampshire. Harmy, that for me looks like, actually Somerset versus Essex as well. That's a key game. And Yorkshire versus Warwickshire. Also, is it like in the contract that every county's got to have a New Zealand cricketer? Because is it just me, or does there seem to be a particularly large number of Kiwi cricketers operating the county championship, Div 1 and Div 2 this year? Either way, Harmy, your thoughts about the pick of the games next week?
Yeah, Durham and Hampshire will be a good one. I don't know for sure, but I heard Bryden Cars from the horse's mouth was targeting the Hampshire game. He said he was that was the game that they were targeting. So I seen him bowling at Loughborough during the week. He was on Instagram, and he looked as though he was ramping his ready back to action program. So hopefully we'll see Bryden Cars play for Durham. I think Durham will need a bit more pace in their attack than what they would at the Ageas Bowl and they would at New Road. So I would imagine it'll be a different type of bowling attack for Durham down at Hampshire. But still, it'll be a good game. I really, do you know what? I'll get in trouble. I'm not getting in trouble for saying this, but I really hope Somerset play Essex on a Turner. I really do, because do you know what? It should be about home advantage. I played at Chester Street for a number of years, and it was freezing cold. It's miles away from everywhere, and the pitch had a bit in it. So we always played to the fact that that was our home advantage, and we were good at home. Somerset should be doing that and not worrying about getting points docked. There should never be any points docked for a pitch which spins, because when we go to India and we get belted 4-1 because we can't play the spinning ball, this is why. So for me, if I was Somerset, play to my strengths, Leach, Vaughan, if Bashir's back, Goldsmith, whoever, and take Essex on. I know they've got Harmer, but take them on, because that's your strength. You're 10th you're 9th in the league. So I'd like to see that. And that it's a good game, that Yorkshire Warwickshire one. Are we going to see Brook and Root play for Warwickshire, for Yorkshire? So Brook, Milan, Bairstow, Lythe. I mean, that is a batting unit. So that's probably, as on paper, it doesn't look the best game, but because of personnel, I think the Yorkshire Warwickshire is a standout game.
Yeah, your thoughts on that, George?
Pretty much agree with that. Yorkshire look daunting this week, don't they? And I do think that those two, I think it's a big game, because I fear those two teams might be in the bottom half of that table. And so if either of them could pull off a win, I think Warwickshire are going to be a bit boosted. No Wokes, I don't think, but Bo Webster's there, I think. And maybe somebody else as well, I can't remember. Anyway, they're a bit stronger as well. But don't know. And I'm at Taunton, as I say, and I completely agree with Harmy. We want Shoaib Bashir to get some cricket as well. He's back out from his loan spell. He's available. They're hoping Craig Overton will be ready as well. I mean, they've had a bit of a pot-gun attack in recent games, and I think play to their strengths and make the argument that this is for the good of English cricket, and let the ECB go after them if they want to and win the argument. It would be ludicrous to penalise Somerset. I mean, within some reason, but I just don't know that they'll do it this week with Simon Harmer in the Essex side. But it's a big game and a really fun game. And Somerset are better than they're showing so far this season, and I look forward to them, puffing their chests out and performing a lot better.
Where are you going to be, Nick? You're attempting to see all 18 counties inside, what was it, 5 weeks or inside? What was it? What were you trying to do? Or have you?
I wasn't trying to do anything, and I just realised I'd sort of organically ticked off about 10 of them within the first 5 days of the season. So,
well, if you hadn't gone to Morocco, then you might have
got done. What am I doing? I'm starting at Middlesex with Kent on Saturday. I'm going to Headingley on Monday, and I believe I'm finishing at Leicester Northants on Friday, Saturday. Sorry, I've forgotten how days work. I'm going to Headingley on Sunday and Leicester on Monday.
Canterbury to Leeds on a bank holiday weekend.
Oh my word!
No, Lords. No, it's at Lords, Middlesex.
Oh,
but
okay, sorry. Even so, I'm
I'm well aware. This is best laid plans and all that. That is the theory. But yeah,
Lancashire could do with the result, couldn't they?
yes,
At home to Gloucestershire. I think if that goes
very
against
to do
them,
result.
well, yeah, true. I think if that goes against Lancashire, though, there might be a few. It might just start getting a little bit dicey.
For what it's worth, I should thank a Lancashire member whose sense of humour was somewhat better than their handwriting, so I can't reply to them. And it might have been anonymous anyway, but they sent me one of those red wilting rose badges. There is obviously a lot of discontent at Old Trafford, and although as I said, the Oval is very vibrant. It pains me to say it, but going to cricket in Manchester and Birmingham, I'm afraid, isn't particularly at the moment, and I wish it were. I mean, I've seen the attendances at Edgbaston dwindle away over the last few years because it used to be excellent, and it feels like that in Manchester too. And there's I don't know, there's a lot to like about Lancashire as a club. I'm going to stick with that, but they have an alienation problem with their membership. There's no denying it. Not maybe with everybody, but with a significant portion of their membership. And
why is that?
well, partly
performance?
Their focus is partly elsewhere, isn't it?
Concerts.
And I have some. Well, not really that. And concerts save that club.
Mm.
Well, I'm not anti-diversification, and I actually think the hotels are a positive thing. And let's remember that ground was not good 20 years ago. They were missing out on Ashes tests. They needed to redevelop. Having an extra income is brilliant. And they have good players who they're paying well, and they are producing young players. There's quite a lot of decent young players involved in that squad. But it does seem that their focus is more towards India. And it doesn't seem that they're particularly invested in the long-term benefit, and they'll hate me for this, but I'm going to stick with it. I don't think they're particularly invested in the long-term good of the county game. For example, they talk about basically pulling up the ladder. They've got one of the 8 teams, eh? We don't need any others. That's what they're saying. They're talking about selling a stake in the 100 to India, which so that they can get Indian players. I mean, there's quite a lot that they're saying that suggests to me that their focus is not as strongly as it should be on being the very best county cricket team they could be. And Surrey do a lot of those other things as well. Yeah, they have an excellent diversified income stream, and these things are good. That's not bad. You've got to do that stuff, but never ever let it take focus away from the day job, which is being a good county cricket team, producing potential future England cricketers. I'm not anti-Lancashire in the way that a lot of people are. I think it's a really good club, but I do think they need to redouble their efforts in that area and just regain a bit of focus. Because you've done really well in a way to make people at Old Trafford drift away from the cricket in the way they have is really worrying. And you must never take that stuff for granted. We've seen it happen in West Indies. We've seen it happen in Pakistan. We've seen it happen at Edgbaston. It would be a tragedy for that to happen.
Well said, George Dobell. Well, that's a story we'll keep an eye on and no doubt pick up on moving forward. But for now, that's pretty much it for this week's Following on County Cricketer. Thanks for joining us.